Hi, everyone. I'm Jeff Clark of the Pater Prospector, and I'm here at the Metals Investor Forum in Toronto. And I'm here with Astra Exploration and the CEO, Brian Miller. Brian, thanks for joining me here.
Absolutely. A privilege. Thanks for having me.
So the first thing we always talk about is people. Not a lot of investors are aware of this company, and I love finding undiscovered companies. I think this could be a potential gem here. But first, Brian, let's talk about your background real quick and also the team. One thing that really attracted me to Astra was just the team that was behind this and the investors that have invested into this stock.
Yeah, 100%. People are perhaps the most important component, and I've been a firm believer of that for some time. My background, I started in mining in the operations side. My education is business and finance, but I previously worked up through the operations side. I started in corporate development in a previous company, took on the CFO role. We sold that company in 2017, and at that point I knew that I wanted to lead a company, but I wanted to have a hand in shaping the team. And that's the opportunity that I got with Astra in 2020. We were focused on precious metals in South America. So the team is hand-selected. And if you would have told me that I would have the team that I have today at that time, I probably would have laughed.
Because it is quite an impressive team.
I have an exceptional group of people behind me that have been involved with several major discoveries in these jurisdictions, put major mines into production, created a lot of value for shareholders, and that's what we're looking to do again with Astra.
Yeah. Well, I want to name drop here a little bit. You got Charles Funk, you got Charles Funk of Heliostar and others. You've got Darcy Marood of Western Exploration, and you have some big name investors that have bought shares in this company.
Yeah. Charles Funk, as you mentioned, Heliostar. He was also VPX at Vizsla Silver when they discovered the Napoleon vein. Right. Darcy Marood, Western Exploration. He was at Yamana, did a lot of work in South America. He built the Cerro Moro mine in the region that we're exploring right now. Led one of the teams that discovered El Peñon. Diego Guido, our head of exploration, he's based in Buenos Aires. He's a field explorationist. He discovered the Punguino deposit in Santa Cruz. And, that's just the people component, as you mentioned, doesn't stop with management and board. Some big name investors, Michael Gentili, he's been an investor since we did our first public financing, and he's been a repeat investor, and he's our largest shareholder.
That's a good sign.
It's fantastic. That's just, starting at the top. Well, we've got Peter Maroney as a major investor. Former CEO of Yamana. They did a lot of work in South America in the regions we're looking in. Mason Resources, those guys, Simon Marcotte, Peter Demooney, Fahad Al-Tamimi, Victor Cantori. It's impressive.
It really is. Okay, let's talk about the project now and see if all this investment is really going to lead to something here. So what I really was kind of intrigued by was you've done drilling, you've had success, but you kind of interpreted that the strike maybe was going a little bit different direction than what the previous operator had interpreted to be. So that opens up potential. You got potential north-south, you got potential at depth, but you also have this reinterpretation of really where this thing is going. Is that a fair summary?
Yeah, that's a fair summary. The system, we haven't done any drilling yet. We're going to do our first drill program later this month that's fully funded.
But to be clear, there was previous drilling on it.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of previous drilling. There's 133 drill holes for about 22,000 meters. So we've got a lot of data, a lot of structural data. This is all diamond drilling. And structure is very important. And as you mentioned, there's this vein strike. There's complexity to the system. So there's several veins here. There's several different strikes. And what we've identified is that the highest grade intervals, they're actually laying on a different strike than what was previously modeled. And so, yes, it's our models show after relogging several thousand meters of core and doing a detailed analysis of the veins, that these veins are open along strike in both directions, not just at depth. And there's also parallel structures that are along the same strike. So this is the opportunity that we saw, was that this system had never been looked at as a classic parallel high-grade epithermal system of feeder zones. And that's what we're targeting with this first drill program.
That's great. And tell us about this first drill program. How many meters, when you might get started, things like that.
About 2,500 meters is what we're targeting, and that will, depending on the depths that we go, that'll give us about 10 holes, plus or minus. I'm guessing depth-wise, we'll probably target around 250 meters depth, so that'll probably be some of the deepest drilling. We're expecting to start about the third week in March.
Very soon.
Very soon. We're quite excited, and we'll be targeting these. You've seen some of the grades here; they're spectacular. We'll be targeting some of these really high grades into areas that they haven't previously been drilled.
Yeah, some of the grades there were really over 200 grams per ton there in one of them. So.
Yeah, and gold, not silver.
Right.
Yeah, no. There's several drill intercepts that are open along strike and at depth. This is all shallow. It's about 150 to 170 meters below surface. And a lot of these high-grade intercepts are open. So you've got, like you were saying, 1.5 meters of 257 grams per ton gold and multiple kilos of silver with that. And several intersections like that.
Wow. Now, this is all in the main zone, I think you call it, right? And then there, just parallel to that is the east zone. The first drill program is going to focus on the main zone, I believe. But tell us about the east zone, because there's a lot of potential there as well.
Right. The main zone is where most of the drilling has been concentrated. And like I mentioned, there's 22,000 meters of drilling, 133 drill holes. Only 8 of those have been in the eastern zone. And this is a parallel structure to that vein 7. That's the main vein that I was talking about with the high grade. The eastern zone is a parallel structure that's seen far less exploration. 5 of the 8 holes in the main zone intersected 5 gram or greater gold intervals. One of those was 4 meters of 16 grams, and that occurred 53 meters downhole.
In the east zone?
In the east zone.
Okay.
Correct.
Got it.
Yeah. And that east zone, it's completely open along strike and at depth. It's never been followed up.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And it is. And it actually sits on an alteration footprint that's larger than that of the main zone. So that's indicative that this could be a materially large part of the system that's never been addressed.
So what is the plan this year? Drill the main zone, 2,200 meters, I think you said.
25, yeah.
2,500, sorry. And then are we going to see drilling at the east zone? Does it depend on what you find at the main zone? How might the rest of 2025 go?
I know that I don't want to put words in Diego's mouth because he is finalizing the drill targets. But I know that one of his high priority targets is that vein 7. I also know that he wants to get some holes into the eastern zone as well. So we'll have to see here in the next week or so what he comes up with as far as finalizing those targets, because we did just do a magnetic survey across the entire project that's also going to feed into the targeting.
Gotcha. Okay. Real quick, tell us about your share structure.
We've worked really hard to keep the share structure tight. The markets haven't been favorable to juniors, so you create value in the least dilutive way you can in those environments. And one of those is going shopping and picking up a project like La Manchuria. We've got 84 million shares out. That group that I mentioned, that small network of shareholders, that accounts for over 70% ownership. So This is really closely held. It's a small public float, still tightly held.
We may not see a lot of selling when warrants and options become free trading. Is that fair to say?
Well, I would hope that's right, but yes, it is structured that way. We've got good, solid, long-term shareholders. I think that that's part of the recipe for a significant re-rate in the share price, especially upon good drill results.
So we will see drill results May, June, maybe?
I would hope, I would certainly think before June, assuming that we start in the third week of March, we could potentially be seeing some results maybe as early as first or second week in April.
Oh, okay, great. Awesome.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, first or second week of May, you're right.
Of May, okay.
4 to 6 weeks out from start.
Gotcha, okay. And then that obviously will be a big determining factor for what happens with the stock, could be a major catalyst. What else might we see this year? I assume that is going to depend a little bit on drill results, but anything else you'd want to say about what we might see from Astra this year? Obviously, this drill program is the main upcoming catalyst. We do have
10-cent warrants that are pretty deep in the money right now that expire in November, held closely by that group that I mentioned. So we've got enough money to get through the drill program. We've got a pocket financing, if you will, that's closely held that would add capital so we can drive that purchasing into the market, another component that could result in a re-rate. But the drill program there, and then, of course, depending on those results, if those are good results, we raise money, we would look to ramp up exploration aggressively.
Yes, and that could be at the main and east zones, depending on what you find. So some potentially exciting things ahead here for Astra exploration. I encourage you to take a look at it. I own the stock and think there's some potentially good things ahead here. So, Brian, thanks for joining me, and thanks for watching here at the Metals Investor Forum.